What's up, guys? I'm here to answer some questions that I get asked all the time. As a full-time content creator, social media manager, podcast producer, people ask me all the time different things when it comes to content, podcasting, video equipment, all of that good stuff. So I thought I might as well just put it in a video, come out to the neighborhood pool, just chill, relax, and answer some of these questions. So let's just jump right into it. Question number one, what are the essentials for a beginner's content creation kit? Great question right off the bat. I would say at the bare minimum, you need a camera, of course, when it comes to content creation. If you're talking about creating content for social media, which video is really important nowadays. So I would say you need a camera. You can start with just your smartphone. A lot of the smartphone cameras are really good. As long as your camera can shoot 4K, I would suggest that you could use your smartphone camera. Using your smartphone is going to be the simplest and the easiest thing that you could use because it's literally at your fingertips all the time. A lot of times the best camera is the one that you have available to you, and most of the time you're going to have your smartphone available and within arm's reach. So I would just use your smartphone for content creation if you have no other video equipment. Now, when it comes to leveling up your video kit, then I would say something like the Sony ZV-E10 or the Canon R50 are going to be good budget options for beginners. This is going to take your camera quality to the next level. There is a little bit of a learning curve. However, it's going to allow you to do some more things when it comes to creating long form content, maybe courses, podcasting, and having a dedicated camera is going to serve you well. Aside from a camera, and probably the thing that I would upgrade if you have just a smartphone is going to be audio. Now, right now I'm using a wireless microphone system. These are the DJI wireless mics. I carry these around with me everywhere. Comes in this little case right here. It's got two microphones that allow you to use two mics at the same time, and it goes into one receiver, which is going into my camera. At the same time, you can use it for your smartphone. It's got a lightning adapter and a USB-C adapter, so you could connect it to basically any smartphone that you have. The reason why I suggest getting some type of microphone upgrade is because video is 50% audio. People will be less likely to watch your video if it has poor audio quality. So if you can improve that, then that's going to help your retention. People will watch your videos longer, and that's going to ultimately help your content grow. So bare minimum, you need a camera. You can start with a smartphone, and I would suggest having a good microphone with good audio, and lastly is good lighting. And you could use just normal daylight, like I'm outside right now. It's pretty cloudy, so the lighting is pretty even. But if you're inside, I would suggest getting a dedicated light, preferably a softbox light. Is going to look a little bit more flattering. I would say having good lighting, a good microphone, and a decent camera is going to take you a long way in your content creation journey when it comes to equipment. Question number two kind of follows question number one. What camera would you recommend someone just starting in content creation? So I mentioned two prior. One would be the Sony ZV-E10. Also, another one would be the Canon R50. Those are two pretty decent entry-level cameras that's going to increase your video quality much more than, say, a smartphone. It's going to allow you to do some things that would be really difficult or inconvenient to do with your smartphone, especially for longer form content or video podcasting. I really like those two cameras, and I've got a video breaking down some of the other cameras that I really like and that I recommend all the time, so make sure you check that out. I'll put the link up here and also down in the description below. How do you decide which platform is best for distributing your content? That's a great question. Deciding which platform is going to be best for distributing your content is going to depend on where your target audience lives. When you think about whether you have a personal brand or if you have a business, where are your target clients, customers, or where's your target audience? Where do they live? Where are they consuming content? And the top 1 to 2 platforms where you believe that that person is, that's where I would be creating content. I do think there's a benefit to being on all of the platforms, but there should be a main focus for you. That's what I'm doing myself. I'm focusing primarily on YouTube and YouTube Shorts. However, there's tons of other platforms that you can be posting your content, but it's important to understand where your target customer is. If you're marketing to, say, a younger Gen Z demographic, then TikTok is probably going to be the place that you want to be. If you're marketing to professionals, people in business, and are in professional services or certain industries and professions, then maybe something like LinkedIn. If you're looking for folks who are in fashion or in photography and influencers, then Instagram might be your place as well. So you kind of have to work that out in your mind first, and then start consuming content yourself on those platforms, and you will be able to confirm whether or not your target audience lives there, and you can start to get ideas, get inspiration, and emulate what some of the creators are doing on that platform. Can you explain your video editing process? That's another great question. It's changed. It's changed a lot over the years, I have to say, and especially with the increase in demand for short form content, it's forced video editors like myself to switch up their workflow, which is not a bad thing, but it's important to be able to remain efficient and to be able to produce high quality content. So my editing process is I would take a video just like this that I'm recording now, and since it's a talking head style video and there is words that I'm speaking, I like to run it through a program called Descript, which the way that Descript works is it transcribes the entire video front to back and has a nice, basically what looks like a Word or Google Doc in the editor. From there, I can edit the transcript and it will actually end up editing the video just like I would deleting a sentence or copying pasting a sentence. It's really pretty cool. I've got a couple videos and an entire playlist on Descript. I'll link it up here. But basically, I would edit the transcript so that it reads well, it takes out all of the mess ups, and I have just the core, just the real lean meat of this video. And from there, one of the cool features in Descript is I can export the timeline. I can export it into a program like Premiere Pro, or what I use is Final Cut Pro. So I'll edit what's called kind of my A-roll in Descript, makes it super easy with that transcription, and then I'll add my B-roll on top inside of Final Cut Pro, music, titles, sound effects, transitions, all of that stuff in Final Cut. What tips do you have for improving the quality of audio in my videos? I would say number one, get a good quality microphone, one like the DJI wireless mic system. Link is down in the description for these. I would you could also use a shotgun microphone that you either boom down right in front of your face, or if you're close enough to your camera, then you can mount it on top of there. If neither one of those are an option, I would say get as close as you can to the camera and use the onboard microphone. The further you are from the microphone, the farther that you're going to sound and the poorer the audio quality. With that being said, there are a number of AI tools that are out here that you can actually improve the audio quality. It's pretty crazy what some of these tools can do, removing some of the echo and background noise and enhancing the real essence of the audio of you talking. So those would be the three things that I would do to improve the audio quality. What are some cost-effective lighting solutions for indoor video shooting? I made an entire video on what my lighting setup looks like. I'll link it up right here. But I would say use a dedicated light. The one light that I like is the Godox SLW60 or 60W. I'll have that linked down below as well, and you can see it in the video that I created. With that, it creates a really high quality light, and you'll want a light modifier on it as well. I recommend a softbox. It's going to make a nice even light on your subject. It it looks really professional. Even if you're using, say, your iPhone to record, it's going to make any camera look that much better when you have good lighting. You could also add in fill lights, hair lights, if you want to get a little fancy, but I would make sure that on your camera it is white balanced correctly. And it's better to use the same color temperature lights. If you have one that's daylight balanced or a little cooler, it's not going to mix well with, say, a traditional lamp where it's a little warmer or even yellow. It's not going to look as great. So if you can have all the same color temperature for all the lights that you're using, the better that it's going to look. What are the key factors to consider when creating a content schedule? This is really important as well when it comes to getting the most out of your content marketing strategy or creating content for your personal brand. Number one is consistency. Whatever you decide to do, make sure that it is consistent and that you're uploading and creating content consistently and you have a plan for that. Also consider how feasible is it for you to create content on a regular basis. Now, this might be yourself, it might be a mix of creating new and original content versus repurposing old content, but you have to be able to be consistent, and how likely are you going to be able to do that? So that's one thing to consider, whether you have a full-time job or if you're full-time creating content for yourself. Lastly, you want to consider the platforms that you're posting content on. For a platform like YouTube, uploading a video once a week would be considered a normal upload frequency. Whereas a platform like Facebook, Instagram, or even TikTok, posting multiple times a day can be considered normal. And again, how much energy, time is it going to take for you to create content? Then you also have to measure the quantity versus quality of balance as well. Are you creating really crappy content and you're just kind of throwing it up against the wall? Or are you really taking your time with each piece of content that you're creating, but it's going to take you a little bit longer? So those are the few things to consider when it comes to creating that schedule for your content. How do you measure the success of your content? What metrics do you focus on? Measuring the success of your content depends on what your end goal is. If you have a business that you're creating content for, then for most people it would be to generate more business. For others, it might be to grow a massive, broad audience for sponsorships or ad revenue, just having a large audience. But when it comes to the metrics of whether or not your content is quote unquote successful, there's just a couple baseline fundamental things to understand with these different platforms. Number one, so you have the producers, which are the content creators, and you have the viewers or the audience, which are the consumers in this economic equation. And the platform is just facilitating the exchange of content and attention. And they're able to monetize that through selling advertising space. That's why you see ads on YouTube videos and TikTok videos, Instagram. In order for the platforms to make more money, they have to have more people on the platform watching content for longer. And it's basically just an attention grab. It's basically just a grab for people's attention. So you as a creator, if you're creating content that keeps people on these platforms longer, then the algorithms will reward you because you're helping them make more money through ad revenue. So one of the key metrics that you'll see across many of the platforms altogether is average view duration or retention or watch rate. Those are can be used interchangeably, but basically it's how much of a particular piece of content is someone sticking around for. And it's usually from 0 to 100%, but sometimes it can be over 100% if people are watching the video for more than once. The higher the average view duration or retention on your video, the better. Because ultimately, if you do that and your content is valuable and people are watching, then there's no way that the algorithms will not reward you by showing your content to more people and allowing your channel, your audience to grow from there. What kind of equipment do I need to start a podcast? Technically, just your phone. The bare minimum is a phone, but I would suggest in getting a high quality microphone, just because podcasts are very audio driven, and the better the audio quality, the easier it is for folks to listen to, especially with a lot of people investing in podcasting over the past couple years. There is a standard for a certain level of audio quality. And so there's a couple microphones that you can get. Don't have to be anything crazy, but the two that I really like are the Shure SM7B. This is like one of the standard podcast microphones. You see it on a lot of the big major podcasts. And then during the pandemic, Shure made a version of that microphone that's more suited to the digital age. Allows you to plug in to a computer with one cable, and that microphone is called the Shure MV7. And I think both of those will improve the audio quality of your podcast. So I would look for something like that. If you're gonna have multiple people on a podcast in the same setting, so if I was to have another person and we're interviewing in the same location, I would take a look at a audio interface, something like the Rodecaster Pro. There's also now called the Rodecaster Duo, which is pretty cool, pretty slick, a kind of little brother to the Rodecaster Pro, or something the like where you can have multiple inputs in like a mixer format, and they've got different pads where you can add in your intros, outros, sound effects, do some cool things while producing your podcast on the fly. So bare minimum, your phone, all the other stuff would be what I would do next level. What are some of the strategies for growing my podcast listener base? This is another great question. One of the main challenges to growing a podcast is growing the listener base. And I think effectively leveraging your relationships with other people who would be guests on your podcast, and also other podcasts that you can be a guest as well. So if you have folks in your community or in your digital Rolodex, or that you're connected to through the social networks, then I would reach out to them, ask them to be on your show if they have an audience, and then do the opposite. Ask them to host you on their podcast. And this is pretty common in the podcast world. You do podcast swaps. It allows both people to have exposure to each of their audiences. And if you're producing the podcast, of course, when it's published, you can share that, and the guests that you have on your show, they will share that link. They will share the show with their audience, and if you provide them with little clips, and they can post that on their social media, that just allows you to get your podcast out there to more people. And the person that you have on your show, they already have an audience, so they're going to want to watch those clips. And if you have other guests that are valuable and are bringing value to your podcast, then there's just a lot of opportunity for your podcast to be heard and seen by other folks leveraging their audience. And this is the same effect that happens when you guest on other people's podcasts. Nowadays, if you're creating a podcast and it's audio only, I think you really have to make the shift towards a video version, or at least recording the video for the promotion side of it. So you might publish your podcast as audio only, but if you have video assets, then that can be repurposed on all of the social media channels. And even if you don't post the full version, if you take different clips, like the highlights of each of the episodes, then you link the full podcast episode in the description or the caption of those posts, that's going to allow your podcast to get more reach as well. And just doing that consistently, just staying in the game, is what's going to allow your podcast to get that exponential growth that happens when you've been in the game for a long time. Last question for the night. Let's go with, can you share your experiences with monetizing your content? How do you balance revenue generation with audience satisfaction? So some of my experiences with monetizing content. For one, I have one YouTube channel. It's an affirmations YouTube channel that is monetized, and I can get ad revenue on that. It's not a ton, but nonetheless, that is one option. For this channel, it's not monetized yet at the time of recording this video, but hopefully at some point soon in the future. But with this channel, just by creating content that's helpful for folks and people that are already in my network but are maybe watching content like this, they have reached out to me to do different freelance work or to consult them on different projects or their content creation strategy. And so by being an expert and sharing content that positions you as an authority, that will allow you to have opportunities to monetize, which I've been able to do, especially within the past few months. And I would say the most that I've been able to quote unquote monetize, not directly for myself, but for the Black Diamond Club, that is my full-time content creation job. What I do with them is create podcasts internally, and then for their membership group. And also we have a public-facing podcast called the None of Your Business Podcast. I'll link that down in the description. What that does is it generates a lot of opportunities to build relationships, which then turns into monetization opportunities. For the owners of Black Diamond Club, Sean Dill and Lacey Book, positions them as authorities in the space. People want to connect with them. They want to reach out and work with certain people, collaboration opportunities, which then on the backside, because they have a business, allows them to monetize from there. There's a lot of different ways to monetize your content. A lot of people will think it's just ad revenue or sponsorships or paid posts. And while those can be good, there are ways that you can monetize if you're expanding and you start to create a business on the backside of maybe your personal brand. Or if you have a legit business, then you can start to funnel leads, traffic, and start monetizing the audience or create offerings for this new audience that you have online. My intentions with this channel is to continue to build it to where it is monetized, and then also in the future, after building the audience more and providing value, creating offerings that people can go deeper and learn more how to do specific things. Only scratching the surface right now, but I really look forward to building that even more. And so if you want to learn more about how you can create a content strategy for your personal brand or your business that then you're able to monetize, make sure you check out this video right here where I talk about how you can do that in 4 simple steps. Let me know down in the comments if you have any other questions that you want me to answer. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.